Welcome to everyone out there. We're moving ahead in our Bible. This is the second book of Moses called Exodus. As we move along here, we're going to have the same program. We're going to point out some of the differences, some of the things that are in Jasher that ain't here. We are going to also talk about some of the numbers here real quick. As I was telling you that there's a difference in some of the numbers, and that there's explanations for a lot of that. I said that it depends on where you start counting. That makes a big difference in how it comes out. So we also have a comparison to what's going on today that's going to be popping out at us. Okay, so here, let me give you an example. In the book of Jasher, well, let me just read it here. A 210-year or 430-year enslavement. Jasher 81, 3 through 4 states that the Israelites sojourned in Egypt for only 210 years. Exodus 12, 40 through 41 says they sojourned 430 years. Galatians 3:16 through 18 explains the difference. The 430-year countdown began when God gave the prophecy to Abraham when he was 75 years old. So the 430 years is from Abraham to Exodus, using chronologic statements from Genesis. This only leaves about 210 years total time in the land of Egypt. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. You got to kind of dig in there. And wherever there's let's say there's an obvious difference in the two, I'm going to always lean on the King James 1611 because it's been tried and true. There's a great translation. These people were totally dedicated. But the ancient book of Jasher had a great people that were motivated also. But out of the two, we realize King James said, off with your head if there's a word out of place, etc. And it's tried and true through archaeology and history and prophecy, all that in our King James. So, but back to this comparison between what we're going through today with Mystery Babylon the Great and this calling out of the people out of Egypt, out of the whore of Egypt, okay? Because the Mystery School of Egypt is a big replica, a twin sister of Babylon with all the idolatry and all of that. So that being said, they had the Babylonian obelisk, the idolatry, the divine family, the spreading of their doctrine, their racism, their breeding with the Nephilim, and that definitely weakened their flesh, okay? You can't breed with these fallen angels and expect the flesh to be good. It's going to get tampered with because it's not as good as what God made when the angels tamper with it, okay? And just like these jabs that mess with your DNA, and they certainly do that. And it weakens you. Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and get started on the second book of Moses, called Exodus. Chapter 1, verse 1, it says, "Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt, every man and his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls for Jacob, for Joseph was in Egypt already." Okay, so that's 70, that's sacred number, and here they come. Harmonizes directly with Jaser. "And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation." Period. 7 is a new paragraph. "And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. And there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we." Okay, and what's missing here is the battle. There was a great battle here, which the children of Israel, some of the great warriors, went out and defeated the enemies for Egypt. Egypt cowered. They ran. They lost soldiers. Sons of Jacob didn't lose any soldiers, and they defeated the enemy for Egypt. So what do they get here? They get attacked out of the fear of them. The people here were very lackadaisical at this point. Now, don't get me wrong, they spanked a bunch of the Egyptians, because when they called for help, they left the sons of Jacob hanging. So this is what caused this, according to the history book, the ancient book of Jaser. So this great victory they had and pushed the enemy backwards, and did a little spanking of some Egyptians along the road that didn't help. When they called for help, they didn't come to arms. They ran. Okay, and cowered and hid. So the sons of Jacob were not very happy with that. All right, so what I'm saying is that was a great rescue. Again, Joseph rescued them through God, and God was behind these soldiers here that did this for Egypt. And here, the cowardly Pharaoh is fearing them here, and that's the typical dictator. He always wants to kill everybody, and that's over and over and over in history, and this is no different here. Okay, they're more and mightier than we. It says in 10, "Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land." All right, and he had the sorcerers there that were helping this along. A great place that is steeped in the mystery religion, sorcery, witchcraft, and Satanism. And they're the ones advising Pharaoh on all this. 11, it says, therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, okay? Now, what's missing there? What's missing there? They did this through trickery. And the Pharaoh had this, all these sorcerers talking about using the lie and the Fabian incrementalism. Okay, see, that's nothing new. The Fabian Society here didn't invent incrementalism. It's what they did to the children of Jacob. They said, okay, we're liable to be attacked again. So, come out and help Pharaoh. See? Come out and help Pharaoh, and you'll get your wages. And we'll help also. Well, that got started, and the next thing you know, the Egyptians start easing out. Next thing you know, there's no one helping. See, little by little, they eased out. And the next thing you know, the Hebrews were doing all the work. But there were a group, a part of the family, the Levites, that said, no, 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 no. This is all, to paraphrase, BS. We're not helping. That never changed. So here we go, and all of a sudden they said, well, we'll give them these taskmasters. And we'll start withdrawing the wages. Pretty soon they won't have any wages. And the next thing you know, they're enslaved. That incrementalism, and then the complacency of the Hebrews here. Much the way United States has had the complacency here. We were lulled to sleep to make the mess out of this country that they've made here. I mean, they had plenty of chances here to stop this enslavement if they all would have united and stood up for what was right. But they didn't. They went ahead and went along to get along, see? We'll just take a little bit of your rights, a little bit of your life, a little bit of your wealth. Well, we'll go along to get along. Well, next thing you know, you're down the drain. And that's what happened here to the Hebrews. And now, what am I basing that on? I'm basing that on Jacer. The exact way they tricked the Hebrews into doing all this work and enslaving themselves. And that's what they've done to the world today. That's what they've done to the United States. And that's what they've done to a lot of people in the world. They used incrementalism. And here we are. Okay. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. Okay. But actually, according to Jacer, they built the walls in case they were attacked. Okay, so that's Jacer. It says in 12, though, it says, but the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. That's exactly a line that's right there in Jacer. And the term rigor. 14, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. Okay, so that's exactly what is used in Jacer. Okay, and on we go with a new paragraph in 15. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, parentheses start, of which the name of one was Sapphira, and the name of the other Puah, parentheses end. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. Period. All right, here is eugenics. Here is the fearful government. This happens over and over and over. But yet people will believe the lies today that there's too many people, right? Isn't that right? There's too many people out here. Is that not what Hitler said? Oh, isn't that what Lenin said? What about Mao? Folks, this is the same thing they say all the time when there's a dictator. It's the same thing. We're going to have to call the herd. This is satanic, all right? Doesn't matter whether you're ripping the baby out of the womb, killing the male child alive here and making him dead, or harvesting their organs for money, or jabbing people to death with their DNA altering, their genetic destruction jab, the mark of the beast. Doesn't matter. This was gone over and over and over and over. Let's say 50 years ago. There's too many people, Tom. Okay, 100 years ago. Yeah, they're right. Oh my, there's too many. 200 years ago, there's too many people. Where does it all end? Well, it's satanic, folks. And here it is again. Do we go along with this kind of stuff? Do we want to kill grandma? Do we want to jerk the baby out of the womb? What do we want to do? Okay, but here's what the midwives did. In 17. But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives, and said unto them, why have ye done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? Question mark. And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively and are delivered ere the midwives come in unto them. So what are they saying? These lively Hebrew women. They deliver themselves before we can get there. Now there's an element of truth to that. The Egyptian flesh was weakened, as I said. I mean, God is not going to help you when you tamper with the fallen angels. And they certainly did that. They certainly did that. Look at the skull of King Tut. It's on display. Look at his daughter. They were Nephilim, folks. Yeah. So the Egyptians were weak. And these ladies, these Hebrew ladies, were very athletic. So that part of it's true. But what does God say about all this? What does he say about the person that will not fear the leader, the world leader here, but only fears God? As it says up here in 17, it says, but the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. What does God think about that? 20, it says, therefore God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. 21, and it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that he made them houses. So there's that hedge of protection for not bowing to the satanic government of Egypt and Pharaoh. And they certainly were satanic. Unless you think having Balaam and his cronies, his sons, there for counselors, one of the most high-level sorcerer Satanists in our history. And does he pop up again? Yes, he does. Certainly does. 22, and Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. Now here we have chapter 2. And we have Moses being born, and the ark cast into the reeds. And he's found by Pharaoh's daughter. Okay, we all know this. And he ends up marrying Zipporah. Gershom is born. And God respects the Israelites' cry. Chapter 2. And there went a man of the house of Levi, and took to wife a daughter of Levi, and the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him, that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with slime, and with pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And that's the reeds by the edge of the river. And his sister stood afar off, to wit, what would be done to him. And that's the older sister, Miriam, and she is a helper to him for years to come, and he's helping him here. Okay. 5 is a new paragraph. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. 6, and when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. And there's also details about how he looked that are not here. He was a special child, and very, very, might I say, angelic to look upon. That's not here. But that's in the book of Jasher. 7, then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee? Okay, now what's missing here is that lots of these Egyptian women tried to give him suck, and he would not. All right, so then this statement's made, and we know the rest of the story here. In 8 it says, and Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother. 9, and Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. 10, it says, and the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water, and that is drawn out in the Hebrew, according to the translators. In 11 it says, and it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. 13, and when he went out the second day, behold, two men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said to him that did the wrong, wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? Question mark. In 14, and he said, who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me as thou killest the Egyptian? Question mark. And Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. Okay, isn't that ironic that this guy said that? Because God's the one that's set him to rule over the children of Jacob here. 15, and when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. 16, now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. 17, and the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them, and watered their flock. Okay, and when they came to revel, their father, he said, how is it that you are come so soon today? 19, and they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock. And he said unto his daughters, and where is he? Why is it that ye have left the man? Question mark, question mark. Call him that he may eat bread. 21, and Moses was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moses Zipporah his daughter. Now there's a lot missing there, according to Jaser. Revel didn't just accept him according to Jaser. Revel locked him in a cage. He imprisoned Moses for 10 years. Didn't feed him. And Zipporah was feeding him. Okay? And when he was to be let go, he was in there in the cage praising God. All right? So this Revel, as it says, he's a priest of Midian, and that's an occult priest also. Sure is. And look what he got here. If indeed Jacer is accurate, there are 10 years here between coming to help, dining, and getting locked up. All right. And Zipporah was a great helper, and she kept him alive with food and water. But then finally it was ironed out there in Jacer, and when he found out what this Moses was really about, 21, and Moses was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moses Zipporah his daughter, and she bare him a son, and he called his name Gershom. For he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. 23, new paragraph. And it came to pass in process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage. And they cried, and their cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. 25, and God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them. That's a big deal, when God has respect unto you. Now, some of the other details that are in Jacer is the great vision that Pharaoh has. And there's also the fact that he, pulled the crown off Pharaoh's head at the table. And that's what I'm talking about with these occult priests that are here. Baliam, a great family of sorcerers, was right here. And when he pulled that crown down, the prophecies, ungodly prophecies, about this child came out. All right? Pulling that crown off, there was destruction going to happen to this child. And that got foiled. Okay? But Balaam and Moses never got along, especially when Moses became an adult and found out that Balaam was going to kill him. Okay, now all this is in Jacer. And so they were enemies. Of course they were. One of them knows God, one of them doesn't. All right, and so there's a lot of details here. I'm not going to get bogged down with it. I just want everyone to know that Egypt has the same mythology as Babylon. It has the obelisks. It's part of the spreading of the pieces of Osiris around the world. All those are the pieces of the religion of the world. And Egypt is a great part of that. See, when it comes to that story of the gods of the whole unholy, holy family, those pieces of Osiris are spread around the world, and all of those represent a religion. The Egyptians are in the middle of all of that. The missing member was the obelisk, the phallic symbol. And that is over every piece of Osiris. Every religion has that Egyptian obelisk. Now, what is that there at Rome? Right there in the Vatican. That is an original obelisk from Egypt that was used there at the first temple of the Catholics. Yes, indeed, that was a temple to Baal, and there was two of them. Of course there is. See, there's the yin and the yang, the double, the polar opposites. Does everybody out there understand that? So one of them went to the Vatican. It's still there to this day. The Pope said, if there's one scratch on it, you're all dead. That's how serious he is over his mystery school, his satanic school. The other one went up for the Protestants, up on the Thames River. How about that? And here God Almighty is battling with this same religion. It's the same religion that was in Babylon. It is the however many pieces. It depends on which story, which mythology they intend on using. The 13 pieces of Osiris's body, that is the world religion. And that's what we're under today. And when it comes to this, the fact is that they are not to look back to Egypt. As Moses and them leave, they are not to be looking back. Looking back at Egypt and longing for Egypt and murmuring against Moses and Miriam and Aaron is a sin against God. And that's the same thing today. You see, all those religions, they all have the obelisk. The Christians have them. The Protestants have them, yes? Yes. Obviously, the Catholics have it, yes. Do the Mormons have it? Yes. Do the Jehovah's Witnesses have it? Yes. Do the Baptists have it? Yes. Do the Muslims have it? Yes. Do the Buddhists have it? Yes. Do the Taoists have it? Yes. Does Washington, D.C. have one? Yes. You see, the mystery school of Egypt / Babylon, the two twin sisters of Baal, is all across the firmament of the earth today. And we are being schooled to not look back at the world, as we are going to be called up hither. We're going to fly away, folks. And we are not to be looking back like Lot's wife. We are just not. So there is an allegory here in this, as this progresses, being called out of Egypt and not to look back like we're being called today in the afflictions of the world today. And this is one evil world out here. In fact, it's downright fascinating to see how evil it really is and how fast it's progressing. But as we're called out, they're in the vials, the book of Revelation, at the first sickle. We're called out. The wheat will be gathered into the barn. We are not to be looking back and longing for the mystery Babylon and this terrible, horrible mystery school religion, the same one that Pharaoh has here. All right, we're going to move ahead. And Moses, he's going to keep Jethro's flock. See you there. Bye.